am I at? Next walk, where am I going? And then how am I going to get there? But once you've achieved your final, you've decided on your final outcome, you basically start from the end result in mind, asking questions. Okay, end result is this. I've done this. I am satisfied that I'm on the right track. Okay, what did I need to do in order to achieve it? Okay, what needed to have happened? And next is, what specific things do I need to have happened every single day between now and Sunday that I'm satisfied each day that I am actually on the track? So you said big goals, the massive one that you created because you're a legacy creator. Yes. Then
Yes.
for each, and at the moment for a week, then for each day. So you wake up in the morning, preferably with that same vision already being clearly defined, and then it becomes the grounding force that within which you're walking. Then you are inspired and on the right track because you are aligning yourself with your subconscious intention and also the intention you've created. And once you've done it, you have to verbalize it, because when you created an intention and you don't physically say it, I cannot explain. There is something magical that happens. It has extreme power. You put something in motion, I would even say on a quantum level, it becomes reality. And then when you've written it, it became a testimony that it's already happened. So there are three things: going backwards, verbalizing it as it is, connecting with your own intuition that yes, that's what I want, and then writing it down and putting it in a visible place for yourself. If it means a small thing, as long as it's in the right direction, you are building the right thing. And sometimes you run, a marathon is a journey of, 10,000 steps. It wouldn't happen unless each step was executed perfectly in the right direction, right?
Yes.
So you repeat the same process over and over again from the foundation that we've established 3 weeks ago. I am a legacy creator, and this plan is already in motion with that vision that you've created in place, and you are now in the process of execution because you've planted the correct seed in the right place. Make sense?
Yes.
And then next week
Okay.
you can reevaluate where you're at. And perhaps quitting what you're doing right now may be the correct decision. But if it hurts you in the process right now, don't do it. That's not the right choice yet.
Okay.
Because it's indirectly helping you get there, because it's supporting you right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's yes. Okay. Instead of just, like you say, taking that big leap, just putting things in place or getting things together in order for me to get to that point where I can just say, okay, see ya.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna leave. I mean, it's not that I'm gonna stop doing this. It's just that I'm gonna take my other position. It will be like a how you call yeah. Well, I mean, I'll just take a different position within the same company. I understand.
Yes, and you need to evaluate. There is one question overriding that you need to ask yourself every day as you looking at all those activities. Is it supporting me in the realization of my vision? Is it supporting you in some way, but providing you the money, providing you experience, or providing you this? Then go with it. If it's something that is not supporting you, then it may be a good idea to put it on the side.
Yes.
Because everything has to align, which creates the efficiency to achieve it within the time frame that you've decided. And the magic happens on a whole different level, because it does. There is some really amazing things that happen. So there are like multiple layers to this creation, but you are the orchestrator of it, and the director, and the main character, and the author of it, and the legacy creator. So
I think one of the issues that maybe we many face is that you know what you want. Like I have clear, I have no doubt of what is my purpose, and where am I going. The problem, I think, it comes when things are not going the way you're going. Things get worse, like this couple of weeks, and then you're like, oh, now what? Like it's not working. So it's the moment that is not working, but being present, and I have mentioned that before, being present and being focused on, back again, these three questions that you mentioned, you know, where am I?
Yeah.
Where am I? Where am I going? And
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
You see, the most important thing, not only in the context where you are at right now, is to be completely connected and clear to one's intention, because the intention is the driver, especially inspired intention. I mean, if you are going to climb Mount Everest with a team, you cannot control the weather. I mean, sometimes shit happens. Sometimes you have to stay back for a couple of days. Sometimes you have to maybe hire one more person to carry something. You've got to be, so it is never a pass of least, you know, there is what I call it, the perfection. Even the plane that's flying is always kind of making course corrections. So instead of resisting this, just make a course corrections, because there always is another way around it. When you have a vision, you will get there, because there is always a way around it. There is always sometimes maybe slowing something down, maybe what saves your life, and it will get you there faster. So in other words, you just keep connected to your intention and always stay on track without wavering. You know, there is always an answer. And as I told you, when we spoke like 3 weeks ago about that event, when the guy gave me $1 million in one afternoon, just because I decided that $1 million will have been in my pocket that day. It's because my intention, my vision was so powerful that this man had no choice but to hand it to me, and he did. So yes. How did he appear? You know, I'm not a subscriber to the law of attraction, because it has philosophical structural flaws in it, but there is law of focus and creation, which puts you in a driver's seat. There is something that happens on a quantum level that goes beyond NLP and hypnosis, where you actually determine that a certain narrative that happens in your life. So that man has shown up in my life, and he handed me $1 million. Had I not had this intention, he would have never given it.
So, you know, and I'm sorry to, you just mentioned something very powerful, and I actually just talked about it. Yes. I have an issue asking for money. Hi, Heather. I have an issue asking for money in regard to investors. I mean, I can borrow money when it's absolutely necessary. Like remember last week when I needed the money for my insurance, and you know, I already paid off. But I have an issue allowing other people to not to work. Like, here's the two different questions. So I can work with people and share the earnings from our labor, but asking somebody else to be part of my plans or my company as an investor and asking for money, I have a big issue. And you just mentioned, you know, you create, I mean, you knew that you need that money and that person came to your life. How can I deal with that?
Well, before answering how you can deal with that, we have to identify a couple things, and then I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Okay. You have children, yes?
Yes.
You have children. Let's imagine, and I will come back to your question indirectly shortly. Your child has let's say, swallowed something that could be potentially very detrimental to their health, which within a certain amount of time can be easily removed, and there will be no side effects of any kind. You have a limited amount of time, an hour, and you need $10,000 right now. Would you hesitate, or would you do whatever it takes to get it, to save
I'll
them?
do whatever it takes. Yes.
Okay, bingo. Why? Because you believe it. Because there is strong purpose. Because you are committed to it no matter what. Because you decided that there is no other option. Yes? So you already know how to be committed to something. That is the mechanism that you require in order to put this machinery in motion. So when we translate that idea to that other thing that you're talking, the difference is that it is a level of your commitment or faith in whatever you are building. In other words, there is a voice of doubt in your mind, and you do not feel that it will be either beneficial for somebody, could be, or there is a risk involved, or maybe that you're not worthy of achieving the result that you want. If that is and part of the equation, this is a big bullshit factor, which is a lie that you've been talking to yourself and limiting yourself. Is a gatekeeper. Okay. It's not that you cannot ask. It is a layer of some kind of programming that you received long time ago. Because when you really think about it, from a bird's eye view of a creator, let's say, right? There is really no difference in asking for help to save somebody's life, to get some money for something that will absolutely change the world, or by asking someone to give you a piece of bread when you're hungry. It is you are the one that's asking, and what kind of faith you have in that particular thing, and what is the reason that drives it. Also, money is a form of energy. It is also a voice. You see, money is sitting in the bank, and I've known many people who are very wealthy. One just passed away at 97 years old with millions in the bank, never shared a dime with anyone. She had a poverty mindset. That money was just sitting there. It didn't do anything. But that person's money is voice, because when you have it, it gives you options to connect with more people. It connects you to do more things. So it puts you on a stage where you're actually visible. So the question is, what's holding you back in expressing yourself for who you are? Because without it, your voice is limited and your range is limited. Do you believe in what you have to offer and what you're saying in order to actually create the particular support system that you require? Because if it's really important, then you will want your voice to be big and resonant, and every single person on the planet to hear about it, because it's that important. Yes? So yes, that's the question. How big is your voice, and how big do you allow your voice to be, and for what purpose are you using it? Because money is only a form of exchange, is energy. Since the beginning of humanity, there has always been the same amount of wealth in the universe. It just lands in different pockets at different times. It's never more or less, it's there. How much of it do you need to create the range of expression to serve to express your purpose in order to make it happen? Because if it is, you'll bring people on board, because you are actually proposing to change many lives. You said 1 million people will be affected by it in a positive way. So why would you deny them the opportunity to receive that benefit? They are there right now waiting for it, and they would be singing praise to God himself that if you help them. So you're not giving them an opportunity to actually benefit. You're holding it back from them because of some kind of nondescript bullshit factor. That's a question for you to examine. How important is it for you, for me, you know? And let's assume that you ask, okay, and somebody declines because they say no. There will always be them. And there will always be them who will jump on board, because there has never been a person who got 100%. You know, if you're a good hypnotist, you will be very successful in it. But the question is, there will always be them who will say no. And that's their sovereign right to say no. But there will be another one who will say yes. Right? So the question is not about being rejected, but next, you want the kind of people around you who will be actually creating energy and propulsion around what you're actually doing. You make sense?
It does. It does make sense, because you just, I mean, it clicks. Everything you said is not. First of all, I already declare it, which is I'm a legacy creator. Signal is $1 billion company that it helps over 1 million people. How am I going to help them if I'm not willing to accept the help from other people? I'm stopping that process.
You're not giving them a chance to be a part of something bigger, greater, and beneficial. By the way, I have to make a statement to everybody who is joining us on this call. The camera on my computer has quit. My Apple has to go to shop. So I switched onto this phone here, and my capability is not quite the same as it is on the computer. So I hope that you hear us. We can talk, everybody, participate. Hello. Sometimes technology is not very cooperative. So anyway, so I'm very happy that whoever is here, that you guys are here, and it's just we're having a discussion about those things. So if you have anything you want to ask, just jump in, okay? So that's the thing, because I mean, and think about it in yet a different way. We are a part of this dynamic energy field. We are in it. We're separate, but we are also part of it. We are actually shaping the energy transfer all the time, and money is nothing more than energy that hopefully is used for ethical purposes, and you have a purpose. So think about that. And
yes,
when you ask yourself a question, who am I, George, that can put such a big vision? Because sometimes we create equations in our mind that we are not worthy of the vision that we've created. And that's a bullshit factor too. Because the only difference that separates people in such endeavors is the intention that they set and the purpose they've set for themselves. It has nothing to do where you come from, what your background is, how much money you originally had when you were born. Alan is asking how journaling can be used. Well, journaling could be used in this capacity. I hope you understand your question. If as I said, if you start everything through with the end result in mind, right? So you have to set intention for the end of it. So like I told George, we created this legacy idea for him a while ago. So he's working towards something that is going to happen on a specific date, specific time, because there is a way to set a goal which has nothing to do with smart goal setting, which is really impoverished compared to this method to achieve. But then you set the same way the goal for each week, each month, each day. Start it up with an objective in a present tense. Today is Monday. By 9:00 p.m. today, I have achieved this, and this has already happened in such a way that you have measurable outcome that you set yourself to achieve. And the process of getting there will be aligned with your intention that you set at the beginning of the day or the night before, whatever it may be. Because then you are living on purpose. It's always from the end result backwards, not towards. Because the thing is, if you set a goal for yourself and put it in a future tense, on a subconscious level, you're creating distance and time between yourself and that thing that you want to achieve, which is still not achieved yet. Your body is responding as if it's not there yet. You have to put it on your cellular memory function experientially as if it has already happened, because the unconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what is and what's imagined. That's the beautiful part of it. Our imagination is more important than knowledge, Einstein said. At that moment, something happens that the how shows up, or you align it, or you filter it through. Opportunities present themselves and you get there. But it has to always start with the end result in mind, all the way to the beginning. The beginning is where you're at, but you also have to know where you're going, put yourself there, and then everything in between will happen. It's a process that you get them there, you get yourself there. So journaling would be useful if you write it, at the beginning of the day and say, this is what happened. Now, if you are inclined to document that, Alan, that at the end of the day that this and this happens, and you will quickly discover a pattern that occurs. That happens. And this is, it's great, Alan. It just happens. If you do it over time, then you will see patterns. I can tell you that in my own life, I've had situations that are unexplainable. A guy gave me $1 million within 3 hours. It saved my butt, in a real estate deal many years ago, and I didn't know much about what I know now. I had synchronicities where I ended up going to Indonesia for a reason which ended up me staying there for 4 years, doing workshops, seminars, training people, and traveling all over Asia, doing amazing things. Because I would say that and that's beyond NLP and hypnosis, is that the universe will conspire with you when you know where you're going and you have a good reason that you believe in. Something happens on a quantum level. I'm working on a project which is called Quantum Success Project, because I've seen some spectacular things where, without a shadow of a doubt, I know that our thought is a substance, and I've done experiments where it's been proven to be true. So that's yet another layer to this whole thing of how influential we really are beyond what we believe, because we've been castrated in our belief with respect to what we're capable of. And, I refuse to accept that because I have evidence of something else happening that's very different, So I would say, George, instead of bullshitting yourself, like Nike says, just do it. Take that first step, that one little step towards it, and you will already feel that you're in motion.
Yeah. Every time, as you were talking and I realized it, I remember you post, stop it. Just stop it.
Isn't it great?
It is.
Stop it. Like, what do you, from a hypnotic point of view, I would say this is so-called rapid transinduction. Just stop it. Okay. Stop it.
Yes, I realized that, and it's, I wish, my goal is going to be that I'm present and I understand that every question that I might have, or every, anything that is stopping me or holding me back, is really a bullshit that I'm telling myself, and I just have to stop it. Everything is possible.
Well, yes, because now this is the most important thing I'm going to tell you right now. It is far deeper than you if you meditate, you will see how deep it is. The biggest question that you need to ask yourself to find an answer to is, what question should I ask? What question should I ask, either myself or ask you? Because there are questions and they are useless questions. So there are questions that will open your mind to possibilities, that will provide multiple layers of answer that you require. There are questions that can even influence others by virtue of them answering them. They will be realigned with some, you can redirect people's attention. But the problem is people throw questions around, and one of the most useless questions, if not the most useless on the planet, is the question of why? Why? Well, it is useless and dangerous. You know why? Because, number one, you will never know why, and you will subject yourself to assumption that may be completely screwed up and start believing reality that is not even, has nothing to do with it. Number two, by virtue of asking that question, people are redirecting their attention to something over which they have no control. And a typical answer would be, well, because my childhood was shit. Okay, well, you had a bad childhood, but it has nothing to do with who you are right now. That's the wrong question. The question would be, how can I live my life today in an optimized state without being attached to the events that occurred 50 years ago, and so that I can look at the past as an observer without feeling the burden of whatever I've been carrying for 55 years. Because the fact is that at that moment, because at that moment, you are thinking of your present moment. The fact is that the past happened, may be true, but it has nothing to do with how you position yourself with respect to it right now, today, because the past cannot be changed, but your relationship to it can totally be changed, and really fast. And I can tell you that can happen super fast. It doesn't need 20 years of therapy or perpetual meetings with beating the dead horse for 5 years sitting in the therapist's couch. That's called waste of time. The brain doesn't work that slowly. The fact is, so the question why is a very useless question. The question is the how, because the how is the why. The how is the why. The process by which we keep ourselves successfully unfulfilled or successfully failing is the process that we can change, because process has sequences in it that we all follow. If it doesn't work, that something has to change. So the question is how? So what is it that I need to know or recognize right now about myself or the situation so that I can change it? And what do I want to change it into? What is the alternative to the one that I'm living right now? Because that alternative exists in the shadow of what I'm living right now that I'm not happy with. It's all in the process. If my car doesn't work, I better figure out what is screwed up in that car and fix it. It could be engine, it could be gears, or maybe just a little electronic thing that is sending me wrong messages. Once I figure out the process, I can fix it. So the question is, what is the question that I need to ask myself the question? And for what purpose? Okay. So when we hold ourselves back in a box of impossibility, there are two aspects to it. That's what drives procrastination. Number one, it's so-called familiar dissatisfaction. I habituated being in a particular, well, I'm not too happy, but at least I know how to be that person, how to navigate. That gives me some comfort because at least it's familiar. On the other hand, I'm not being fulfilled. So it's like sitting on a fence with this thing stuck up your butt, getting impaled on it. I want freedom. No, but I'm going to hold on to that job that is like a prison. But you know what I mean? The question is, what is it that I want right now? Because I have a certain limited amount of time within which I can express that thing, whatever I've got inside. The purpose that you already clearly defined. Yes? So I'm looking, what are your thoughts on our higher selves in all of it? That's the question that Alan asked. Well, I believe, Alan, that we do have a higher self of the highest level. I have a strong relationship with God, with the man upstairs. My spiritual connection, I'm not a religious, but spiritual is the most important thing in my whole life. And I will never be so egotistical as to say that I'm God. But I am a conduit of something much greater that I can, if it's aligned, that allows me to live in an inspired state. Now, what about Brian? Brian, how can journaling? I'm looking. Hello, gang. Hi, Brian. Okay.
How are you?
So,
nice to see you.
Hi there. So yeah, I do believe the higher self. I'm never not cognizant. I set my whole day, every single day, where I wake up in the morning and I have to, thoughts of stuff. I set a very high purpose for myself every day, so that I'm aligned with the highest purpose for myself, and my day at the end of the day will have been an expression of this. And then I don't worry about it because I'm living aligned with that intention that I set for myself. Because I believe we should live on purpose and do our best to express that highest version of ourselves every day. Hopefully inspire other people to do the same. That's my view on this. When I do my trainings, this NLP and hypnosis and all this structural psychology stuff, I have a higher purpose behind all the trainings that I'm doing. I'm not teaching people just how to be a great salesperson and quadruple their income. Absolutely, that's great. But this has to drive some higher purpose than just money. Money by itself, for me, is not enough of a motivator. It has to be a byproduct of something greater, It has to be a natural exchange that happens in the world through an energy that happens, That's my belief anyway. Make sense?
Makes sense. Nita, I've got a question.
Because, yeah?
So going back to a moment ago, you talked about, why, and I get it. It can be a very dangerous place to go. It's a paradigm, right? There's no up, down, back, front. There's nothing to it, right?
No, really, there isn't.
Yeah.
There isn't.
Yeah, correct. I agree.
And
instead of asking, I'm going to use an example. When I talk to people with different things, usually you have to peel back a couple of layers to find out. And I've always tried to find out what is somebody's why.
Yeah.
So I asked them that question without actually asking them that question, right?
Correct.
What would my approach be instead of taking that approach?
Yes. Because first of all, and I'll tell you, there is another layer to it, which is really why is it dangerous? Because our whole human functionality reasoning, our logical existence is based on a pivotal word of because. We are always seeking answers. We do things because we think, because we want something, because we don't want something, because we're always looking for causality. And now, if we look for causality as a static reason for something, we can become a victim of a false belief that something made me the way I am. I am fucked up because my uncle told me that I was a bad boy when I was 6 years old. And it becomes a reality, and I will define myself by it. The same way I can become a victim of propaganda and have a mind virus put in my brain because I accepted something as true, which it isn't. Logically, it is structurally, logically very sound because that's how we all think. But the narrative around it is screwed up. I mean, but it also can be used for extremely powerful purpose when you're influencing people, but let's say ethically. You can prime people for success in this way. You can install a why hypnotically. And I will give you an example of this. Ethically, because I said this is so powerful. You can really screw people's minds with it. And hopefully, it has to be understood. So for instance, I see somebody who, a bunch of people, let's say in an audience, in a seminar, let's say like I used to do so many live events. There is 30 people sitting there, all, let's say, with some kind of deeply rooted anxiety, for instance. These people are begging for solutions. They're seeking an answer. At the same time, they're holding themselves back because they identified with it. So I can do this. Because you're sitting in this room, because you've suffered for so many years, and you've been felt so limited in your life, because of that, because you're sitting here. Once you walk out of that space, when you've really paid attention to what I'm going to show you today, that anxiety will vanish like a fog. And they are now aligned with an intention that I created for that anxiety to go away. They are now primed for that change. I'm not making false promises, but at the same time, I already know, number one, that I know what I'm doing, but secondly, I believe, and that's a foundational belief that we all human beings have to have, that we already have everything we need to become an optimized version of ourselves. If we are not optimized, it's because we have mind viruses, or we've been programmed to believe some nonsense about, I'm not talented enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm too old. Oh, it's not for me, it is for the rich people. There is all kinds of nonsenses which become a why. So I can install a why, but I can also abolish a why. But if somebody has a problem, I will not ask them why. The question that I would ask is how. If Billy comes to me and he has had depression for 25 years, never not, which is not true because sometimes he forgot to be depressed at least once every week, I would say, Billy, I want to borrow your brain. I will ask you some questions so that I understand how you became so masterful at creating this successful depression. I mean, you're telling me you've had it for 25 years, never not. So you know what it is, how to do it, how to maintain it, how to never not have it. If I understand how you do it, then we can figure out how you can activate something different in your brain, because you're already demonstrating a mechanism for creating something stable and successful. Your depression is as successful as Michael Phelps, who is now winning, 8 Olympic gold medals. Let's figure out how you do this, because I don't know. Teach me how. Now our question is on the how, not on the why, because why is the how. And it also switches his mind from thinking about, oh, something happened to me, I'm a victim. Now he's actually actively participating in re-engineering his new process of thinking, rather than being stuck in some kind of, oh, I am doomed because my father was a bad man. What does that have to do with who you are right now? You may have had bad experiences, but that's about it. So this is kind of roundabout story about the why. The how is the why. But from an influence perspective, you can influence the why and obliterate resistance in people who are resisting sales or resisting coaching, because you're asking those questions, because because you said that you didn't understand what I just said, that tells me that your mind is, that you are really a diligent buyer. And that's a great success, because that means that you'll be able to make the right decision. And because you got so upset right now about what happened here in this room, that tells me that your unconscious mind is just ready to make the change that you need. And now I've acknowledged what the problem is. And at the same time, they are no longer focused on it, because I said, yeah, sure. And it's okay. I already created a framework around it, so it doesn't bother them anymore. So there is ways to navigate it. Everything has every coin has two sides to it, positive and negative. It depends how you use it and for what purpose, right? So that's my narrative here. That makes sense, right?
Makes a ton of sense. Thank you. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. In essence, we really are operating all on the same principles. Our reasoning, except the fairy tales we tell ourselves based on those principles, can be absolutely fantastic. Such as, he came home late, he's sleeping with the secretary. I mean, what could be multiple other reasons that he came home late? Well, maybe his car didn't work, or maybe whatever, but people create these beliefs, and it becomes the reality. They hold on to it, identify with it, and they're stuck. So yeah, to get unstuck, you take the why out and ask a better question, strategic question. Because question is the most important. It's more important than an answer. Answer is like a full stop at the end of the sentence. And a good question opens the doors to possibilities and shapes a new narrative that can be different from what one used to believe, or, that was holding them like in a prison of a cage of some kind of nonsense that they bought into. I call it a bullshit factor. Everybody has a degree of it. Yeah. And, I'm not politically correct. I like saying things as they are, because it's a lot easier. Yeah. I'll give you an example of this in real life. 2 years ago, I went to a conference. It was in Europe. It was like 430 people. And they were all psychiatrists and people at the highest echelon of academia when it comes to therapy, and I was invited to speak. These people are very snobbish, because in that society, you have to dress properly. There is a certain way of addressing people. There is formalities, you speak to a person in third person. Would professor agree on that subject? That sort of, oh my goodness. Anyway, what has happened? My luggage did not arrive in time, and I had to present myself in my sneakers, leggings, and a sweatshirt. So I appeared in front of this rarefied group whose eyes became bigger than plates. And I said, welcome, good morning. Before I begin, this is an opportunity to bypass your own judgmental feelings and really connect to what I'm saying, because my luggage did not arrive. And you have me in my raw format. And maybe tomorrow my dresses shall arrive and we shall have coffee in a shopping mall or something. This is the raw version of myself. But what I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to change the way you look at certain things. How is that? They started so happy. What happened? The next day, a lot of these people came in casual clothes, even though my dresses arrived. They said it gave them permission to be human, instead of those, mummified stone structures sitting in those chairs, stuck in the mask they put on their face, constrained by the handcuffs they put on themselves. Because who are you more than just a professor, whoever else who has more letters attached to your last name than your name itself? You know what I mean? So, that was cool.
Love it.
Oh my God. My sneakers were not even the new ones, they were the kinds that I sit on the plane. The old ones. So anyway, here we go. Any other questions on this? there, I can still see there is 5 people there because, you know, my computer camera failed. I'm on my cell phone, and the format here is a bit different on Zoom than what I'm used to. So I cannot really see who is there.
Heather.
Hi.
It will be,
yes.
yeah. Anita, so Heather is the person that I was telling you when we start the session. I know probably you cannot see her on the phone. So Heather, it will be better if you just speak, because she's probably not seeing who is everybody who's on the
I'm
chat.
looking on my little cell phone screen.
I'm through the business account, and it says Digital Profit Builder, so it doesn't say my name.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm Heather Coffin. Yes, Coffin like the casket. So we get famous around Halloween time.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm a digital marketer. I do believe in a lot of the NLP frameworks and mindsets, if you would say. I do believe in it such that you could attract, and how you could switch your mindset on switching the questions on how you think. And I was actually talking to Jorge earlier today. I said I started feeling out of line, but it wasn't the fact of me not manifesting or not setting my mindset to do what I need to attract. It was actually receiving what was coming to me. Because if you don't receive by accepting it, you're not going to get it. And when Jorge's asking about money, well, a lot of business people are in the mindset because they're taught through school. You know, you need to save first, you need to buy a house, pay it off first, then you got to do this. You're in the mindset that's been set in by your learning of whether it's school, your parents, or how they were raised, the time they were raised, etc. I do believe that we need to go into, like, again, asking questions to make sure that we're on the same path and be able to get our mindset straight to not only attract it, set it, and then receive it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It's actually quite funny, because I was saying to another business owner that I got out of line for the day, and it wasn't, I was trying to get things to work, and it wasn't working. And it's quite funny, because I'm like, I need to connect to Earth or something, like reconnect to myself, and it was having that earthquake came through. So little things out of symmetry kind of occurred that day, and once the next day happened, everything came to settle. And just acknowledging the energy around you definitely implements the thinking process as well, right? So if you're stressed about money, or stressed about getting to something or achieving something, that whole energy breaks up that whole path of achieving and attracting.
Well, in fact, when we are fear is a very extremely powerful creative force, which we are actually creating what we are afraid of, because it has a very strong emotional imprint. There is a frequency about it, and there is it's, you know, I had if you guys want, I will share with you a particular experience which changed my completely life, my perspective on my work and everything I do. It led me to be doing some crazily amazing stuff that I'm working on. Do you want me to tell you? It's going to take about 5 minutes or so, because it's very relevant to what we're discussing. Okay, so here we go. I'm working currently on a quantum success project, which is really byproduct of that. But let's go to that original experience. Okay, I was doing advanced hypnosis training. And I developed a system to teach NLP and hypnosis in a strategic way, through a framework that enables people to become really masterful strategically with the methods, because a lot of people become experts in techniques and processes, but have no idea how to use it in real life, because there is no framework to deploy it effectively for everybody. But that's a different story. So here is an advanced hypnosis training. On day 5, we did an exercise in calibration. You have to be able to see the different, nuances in people's physical change, which is subconscious mind communicating, which always does. I did a simple experiment, which is exercise, which translated into something different. So this is as follows. Divided them into groups of 2, A and B. A is practitioner, B the client. I drew 3 figures on a flip chart, green square, red circle, and blue triangle or something like this. And the person A, who was the practitioner, was to calibrate person B and say which one of those figures they were thinking, through some first trial rounds. Success rate was very high, probably 85%. Then I did something else. I positioned them backwards to each other where there was no visual cues. The success rate went up considerably. And I said, something else is going on. And now I threw a wild card in and something crazy happened. I gave them half an hour and I said, person B thinks of an event or something of significance to them, nothing traumatic, And when person A feels it, I had no clue what the heck was going to happen. I really didn't. Tells them, and let's see what happens. Are they correct? Meanwhile, I had half an hour to find Milton Erickson's metaphor about wild daisies, because we were doing hypnotic symbolism and metaphor section like the rest of the day. It was called White Daisies. So I'm focused 100% on finding it in my files. And suddenly I hear people sitting 1 meter away from me. Person A says, you're thinking of white flowers. Person B says, yes. How do you know? I saw them. I said, what? I was single-mindedly focused on finding that thing. It was about white flowers. So they intercepted my thought, translated it as their own, and it means my thought process overrode their thinking process. And I'm thinking, okay, number one, that tells me that thoughts are a substance. There is a projection, there is a receiver, there's no question. And I experimented with it since, oh my God, what happened? That's crazy. But why is it that it was my thought that was intercepted and not yes, they are, Alan, but person B's thoughts were not? Is because I was focused single-mindedly. I had an intention and purpose to find it within the time frame. So it was like a laser that these people caught. So I'm thinking we have great power in the power of our thoughts driven by intention. And of course, once you say it loudly with your voice, it gives it that entirely whole new frequency. That's a whole different magic happens and so forth. But the fact is, we are always in the process of creating something. We are never not, except our brain is running randomly and creating what it habituated or, it's going wild. If we give it specific task, a specific direction, it will start creating incredible things. So the question is that we have to harness the creative engine of ourselves, connect with our purpose, and I believe higher self 100%. For me, that's number one. And then it happens. And it doesn't really matter how it happens. It may show up like that dude who gave me $1 million that afternoon, or it may show up as an opportunity that you never expected, or you may end up in a situation where suddenly changes your life. That happened to me quite a few times. And we are not in control so much of the how. We just have to set the tone, the direction, and be absolutely committed to what it is that we're doing. Because when you set a goal, the goal is a measurable evidence of your reason for that goal. The reason for your goal is the goal. That is the reason. That is the real one. Why do you want to have $2 million in a bank account? Some people say, because it gives me safety. So safety is you want to feel safe. The money is just a vehicle to get it. And sometimes you have to go through few layers to extract the deepest value, why this is so important to you. And then you're talking to the real essence of the person. Now it becomes creative power, That's the thing. Yeah. It's pretty fascinating. It really is fascinating. So I get very tired of people who are teaching NLP and hypnosis as a series of techniques, because those techniques are good, but they are often useless unless they're applied into the framework of thinking of the person in front of you. They have the whole unique process that they are following. You have to figure out what is it to plug it into, to make adjustments. You cannot just use the same technique across every person and hope it to work, because there are no two people who are the same. We operate on the same principles, but our fairy tales that we create are all different. So, yeah, that's my fairy tale here. Yeah. Makes sense? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there could be two people who want to learn, who are failing in mathematics. the outcome is the same. One person could be because they're just not interested and they prefer to play games under their table. Another person maybe because they are scared of failing and they bought into hypnosis that if I fail, my father will be mad. If you deploy the same technique for both people to fix the problem, it wouldn't work because there is a completely different problem with the same symptom on the surface. So you've got to do a deep inquiry behind the scenes to figure out the process, like what makes that person successfully failing or successfully successful or successfully doing something, to figure out how they do it. And then you can do something with it, with their permission, you know. So anyway. Yes, and Alan, yes, all minds are connected. We are all connected. We are all connected. And I have a specific analogy for this. It's like that. If we look at a computer screen that's alive, there is nothing on it. There is some power. Suddenly stick figures show up on it, and they are doing all kinds of stuff. Some are jumping, running, turning, loving, kissing, shooting, playing. Each of these figures is an individual figure, but that figure would not exist in the absence of the screen upon which they appear. And they have a requisite variety of choices within which they have freedom of expression. But the determinant factor is that deep, profoundly spiritual force, which is the screen on which they appear, because without which they couldn't exercise any of their choices. So we need to not be aware of that bigger